Good evening, friends and fiends and enchanted magical beings. I hope you're doing well and are ready for a tale that is, well, really freaking cute. If you're a cat lover, you are going to love tonight's tale. I mean, there's some creepy fairy tale things, and guess what? The invisible disembodied hands are back. Yes. But me, as a cat lady, is so thrilled to share this story with you. It's so cute and a lot happens, and it's quite a good fairy tale. So if you'll follow me into the enchanted woods, into a castle that no one has ever set foot in because, oh, well, you'll see why. Let's get into the story of the White Cat. There was once a king who had 3 sons, and he loved them all so tenderly that each one was dearer to him than the others. He loved them all so well that he could not make up his mind to which one to leave his kingdom. He thought, and then he called his wise old counselor to him and asked his advice. "Your Majesty," said the counselor, "you love all 3 of these princes equally, and so my advice is to leave the kingdom to the one who loves you best." "That's pretty solid advice." "But I do not know which one loves me best," said the king. "Then set them 3 tasks. The one who performs the tasks the best, and who takes the most trouble to please you, he must be the one who bears you the most love." Unsure about how I feel about that, continuing on. This advice pleased the king, and he sent for his 3 sons and told them what he had decided to do. "I have," he said, "a great wish for a little dog to amuse me. I will give you a year in which to find me the smallest and prettiest little dog in the world. Whichever of you bring me such a dog shall receive 1/3 of my kingdom." That seems cool, splitting it up per task. As soon as the princes heard this, they were eager to set out in their search of such a dog. The 2 older brothers were sure one of them would find it, for they did not think much of their younger brother. Each one rode away to a great city and went to the best dog dealers there. The eldest son brought a little white dog no larger than a small kitten and very pretty and playful. The second son brought a red dog so small it could curl up in the palm of his hand. Each was content with his choice and rode home without searching further. The king was delighted with the dogs they brought, and his sons wished him to decide at once as to which of them deserved the kingdom. But this the king would not do. No, he said. "We must wait until your brother comes. He can hardly find another dog as pretty as these. But still, it is only right to wait until he returns, or until the year is up." That's a long time to find a cute dog. Meanwhile, the youngest prince had ridden on and on, much further than either of his other brothers. Everywhere he asked for dogs, and hundreds of them were brought to him, big and little, fat and thin, white and black and gray and red and yellow. But not one of them was what the prince wanted. He's really doing his homework here. This is a story about a cat. Why is there so much talk about dogs? Anyway, moving on. At last, one day he came to a deep forest. A storm had risen. The prince was wet to the skin with rain and covered with mud. He saw a light before him shining through the trees, and he rode toward it. He hoped he might there find some shelter for the night. What was his surprise as he drew near the light to see it came from a magnificent palace that had been built here in the deep forest, far away from any city. The prince knocked at the door, and at once it opened before him. He went in and looked about him, but he saw no one, though invisible hands closed the door behind him. An unseen hand took his, and he was led through several rooms into a handsome chamber that seemed to have been made ready for him. His wet and muddy clothes were removed by the invisible creepy hands, and he was dressed in a suit of white and silver. But with all this, he still saw no one. He was then led to a banquet hall where a fine feast was laid out. Suddenly, while the prince stood looking about him, there was a sound of trumpets. The doors opposite him swung open, and a strange procession marched into the room. First, walking upright, came a very small and very pretty white cat. She was dressed in all black and wore a long black veil and an ebony crown. Ooh, she's really cool. She's got some style too. Oh my gosh, I want to be her friend. Can she be my villager in Animal Crossing? She was followed by other cats. Some of these were dressed as ladies-in-waiting, some as courtiers, and some as trumpeters. This is the most adorable procession I've ever heard in my life. This is amazing. The white cat came up to the prince and bade him welcome. "I saw you as you rode through the forest," she said, "and this feast was made ready for you. Come, prince, let us take our places at the table and eat." The cat then seated herself at the head of the table and motioned the prince to sit beside her. I mean, of course she sits at the head of the table. She's the cat. She's the queen. Oh my, I can't. Unseen hands at once served them the most rare and delicious dishes. The cat ate daintily, and the prince noticed that she touched nothing but some oddly cooked birds and some cream. The prince himself was hungry and ate of everything. And while he ate, the white cat talked to him with so much sense and wit that he was delighted with her. After the supper, the white cat left him, and he was led by the invisible hands to a magnificent chamber where he spent the night. The next morning when he awoke, he found a hunting suit of green laid out for him, and high riding boots and a plumed hat. Unseen hands dressed him, and food was served to him in a breakfast room hung about with curtains of satin and embroidered with gold. These unseen hands would kinda get to me after a while, just saying. After he had eaten, the prince went in search of the white cat. He found her in a courtyard. She and her attendants and several cats dressed as huntsmen were about to set out on a hunt. She invited the prince to go with them, and he gladly accepted. So cute. A troop of monkeys, all saddled and bridled, were led up the palace steps. The cats are riding on monkeys? Are you kidding me? The prince looked in wonder while the white cat sprang up on the back of the largest and finest monkey. The other cats also mounted, but as the prince was too large to ride a monkey, a large wooden horse on wheels was brought for him to ride. Oh, he gets to ride a toy horse while they're all on monkeys. Oh. This seemed so absurd to the prince that he was about to refuse, but the white cat motioned him to it so politely that he was ashamed to say no. He sprang onto the back of the wooden steed, and at once he felt it move and stir under him as though it were alive. The cat huntsmen sounded their horns, and away the hunting party went. The white cat and the prince rode first, and the prince found the wooden horse rolled along so smoothly and swiftly that nothing could have been pleasanter. The day was spent in hunting through the forest, and in the evening there was another grand feast at the palace, this time with music and dancing. The dancers were 6 large black cats dressed in spangled clothes, and their leaps and bounds and twirlings were wonderful. The prince had never been so well amused in his life before, and neither have I. Oh my gosh. Day after day slipped by, and the prince stayed at the white cat's palace, and he was so happy there that he quite forgot his father and the kingdom he had hoped to win. The year had passed all but 3 days when suddenly the prince remembered his errand. He was filled with dismay, for now it was too late for him to seek for a little dog, and he feared he had lost all chance of winning the kingdom. But the white cat saw his trouble. "Do not be dismayed, prince," she said. I imagine she's actually purring this. "I know the errand that brought you here, and I am ready to help you." She then handed him an acorn. "Here," she said, "take this and you will find the thing you seek." The prince thought the cat was mocking him, and rightly so, but she bade him put the acorn to his ear and listen. When he did this, he could hear from within the acorn a sound of a dog barking as thin and small as the squeaking of a mouse. "Do not open it until you reach home," said the white cat. "Then, when your father sees what is inside of it, he will know that you are the one who deserves the kingdom." The world's cutest cat gave the prince the world's tiniest little dog. Also, it's probably good that so much time had passed, because Prince's brother's puppies, I'm presuming their puppies, probably grew up and they were no longer tiny, giving him even more of an edge. If he hadn't found the little acorn dog. The prince thanked the cat and mounted his own horse, which was not wooden, apparently, this time, which had been brought from the stables, and rode on home. Just before he reached his father's palace, he bought an ugly dog from a beggar and took it with him. When he entered the palace, he went at once to the room where his father sat upon his throne with the 2 elder sons by him. When the 2 princes saw their younger brother enter the court with the ugly dog at his heels, they laughed aloud with scorn. They felt very sure that now the kingdom would belong to them. The king was very much offended. He spoke to the young prince harshly. "Why do you bring such an ugly dog to my court?" he asked. "Have you no more respect for my wishes than to present me with such a dog as that?" The prince, however, answered gently, "Dear father, have patience for a moment, and I may offer you something which will please you better." He then drew out the acorn and opened it. Inside it was a tiny satin cushion, and upon this cushion lay a dog so small and exquisite that the king was filled with wonder. He could scarcely believe his eyes. "That sounds adorable." "Truly, you deserve to have the kingdom at once," cried he, "but I have promised that there should be 3 trials before I give my kingdom to any one of you." The king then told the princes that he wished them to bring him a piece of muslin so fine and delicate that it could be drawn through the eye of a needle. Whichever one succeeded best should receive at least part of the kingdom. They should just go see Vasilisa, she's made that stuff before. The 3 princes at once set out on this new errand. The elder brothers sought out the dealers in great cities as before, but the youngest prince rode straight to the castle of the White Cat. The cat received him kindly. "I know what is required of you," she said. "Do not trouble yourself in the matter. Stay here with me, and when the proper time arrives, you shall have what is needed." I love this cat's philosophy. All in good time. Just wait. Don't worry. I could really use her all the time in my life. Oh wait, I have 2 cats. Maybe I should listen to them more. So the prince stayed there in the White Cat's palace for a year, all but 3 days, and the time passed even more pleasantly than before. At the end of that time, the White Cat gave a walnut to the prince. "Take this," she said, "and do not open it up until you're at home again. Within it, you will find what you desire." The prince took the walnut and rode away. When he reached the court, his brothers were already there. Each one had brought with him a piece of muslin so fine that it would pass through the eye of a darning needle, but they could not draw it through the eye of a cambric needle. No siree, no they couldn't. Then the 3rd prince took out the walnut and cracked it. Within it, he expected to see a piece of muslin, but instead he found only a hazelnut. He cracked the hazelnut, and inside of it was a cherry stone. He cracked the cherry stone, and inside of that was a grain of wheat. The prince began to fear that the White Cat had deceived him and that he must lose the kingdom. But he already has a third of it? I don't know. As for his brothers, they laughed aloud and mocked at him. "What trick is this that you're playing on us?" they asked. "If you have the muslin, show it to us, and if not, then confess to our father that you have failed." Without answering, the prince cracked the grain of wheat, and inside of it was a millet seed. His heart sank. However, he cracked the millet seed, and there was the piece of muslin the cat had promised to him. He shook it out, and there were ells and ells of it as fine as gossamer. Never had such a piece of cloth been seen before. The king looked and wondered and admired. The muslin was so fine it could be drawn not only through the eye of a darning needle, but through the eye of a cambric needle as well. "This is a wonderful piece of cloth," said the king to the young prince. "You have indeed again deserved the kingdom, but there is one more task to be performed before I can give it to anyone, as I wish you to bring me the most beautiful princess in the world. Whichever of you can do this shall receive at least half of the kingdom." So we gave away a third, and now we're giving away half. That math is really, really weird. Does not add up. When the elder brothers heard this, they were in haste to set out. The youngest brother had already brought their father the smallest and prettiest dog in the world and the finest piece of muslin, but with good luck, one of them might still bring to him the most beautiful princess. They journeyed away to far kingdoms where there were princesses who were famed for their beauty. But the youngest prince rode no place at all but to the palace of the White Cat, because the White Cat is the most beautiful girl in the whole world. Oh, she's so darling. The cat welcomed him even more kindly than before. "I know what it is you have come to seek," said she. "This matter is not so easy as the others were, but do not be downhearted. I will help you when the proper time comes." Again, the days passed pleasantly in the White Cat's castle, and the prince was well content to stay there. He was so happy that a whole year, all but a day, slipped by before he had thought about it. Then one morning he awoke and remembered that the next day he must be back at the king's palace with the most beautiful princess in the world, if he were to win the kingdom. "Alas, alas," he cried, "the kingdom is certainly lost to me. I have no time left to seek for a princess, and moreover, it is a 3 days' journey back to the palace. Before I reach there, the kingdom will certainly have been divided between my brothers." "Have I not promised to help you?" asked the cat. "Why do you trouble yourself? If you do exactly as I tell you, the kingdom will be yours, and not that kingdom only, but others beside." Ooh, this is exciting. The cat then told the prince to draw his sword and cut off her head, but the prince refused to do such an act. Rightly so, that's horrible and horrifying, and also something we've encountered before in fairy tales. He was filled with such horror at the bare thought of it. The White Cat began to weep bitterly. "What have I not done for you?" she cried, "and you will not even do this one thing for me." She wept and lamented so bitterly that at last the prince could refuse no longer. He drew his sword and cut off the cat's head, but at the same time he closed his eyes that he might not see the cruel deed. When he opened his eyes again, what was his wonder to see that no cat, but a beautiful princess who stood before him smiling. Never had he seen such a beauty before. "Prince," said the princess, "you have saved me from a cruel fate. I was taken by the fairies when I was a baby and lived with them as a daughter until I grew up. Then I made them angry because I would not marry a very rich and ugly dwarf who was a friend of theirs. They then changed me and all my companions into cats, and we were obliged to live in these shapes until some young and kind-hearted prince would cut off my head. This you have done, and now we are all restored to our proper shapes again. This shows me that the fairies have forgiven me and will give me back the 2 kingdoms that were mine by rights." The princess, no longer a cat, then ordered the wooden horse to be brought to the door. She and the prince mounted it, and away they went so fast that the wind whistled past their ears. The 3 days' journey was made in less than a day, and when the prince led the princess into court, everyone was obliged to own that now he had indeed fairly won the kingdom. His 2 brothers had also brought home with them beautiful princesses, but neither could compare in beauty with the bride of the youngest prince, for his bride she had promised to be. As soon as the feast could be prepared, she and the young prince were married. As the princess already had 2 kingdoms of her own, she begged the old king to divide his kingdom between his 2 elder sons. This was done, and the older princes were married to the beauties they had brought home with them, and they all lived in love and happiness forever after. The end. That was a nice fairy tale, wasn't it? You don't get very many of those. I mean, except for the whole, hey, and this curse, hurt me. I don't like that, but look, you got cats galore. Cats in tutus, cats in hunting outfits, being cute and pretty, and this is such a good fairy tale. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed the telling of it. Obviously, my inner cat lady has come out in force, but hey, sometimes you gotta do that. Anyway, I hope you're doing okay, and I'll speak to you soon in the next video. If you've got the time, stay around and enjoy another tale. We've got quite a few now, I think. And if you've gotta go, sweet dreams. I'll speak to you soon. Good night. Stay spooky, my friends.